The unbreakable prisoner. Mira Vasquez sat in chains, her posture unnaturally straight despite the bruises forming beneath her torn combat suit. The cold metal of the imperial interrogation chair pressed against her back, but she barely registered it. The room was sterile, featureless walls, dim lighting, and a single reinforced door. It smelled of antiseptic and metal, a place designed to break the will of prisoners. The Xelvan interrogator, Commander Valtor, stood before her. He was tall, his exoskeletal armor gleaming under the lights. His narrow, slitted eyes studied her with calculating precision. He had interrogated countless species, and they all broke. Some resisted longer than others, but in the end, they always succumbed to fear. Yet this human was different. She did not tremble. She did not plead. She did not even show discomfort. "You understand your situation, don't you?" Valtor's voice was smooth, practiced. "Your world has fallen. Your armies are shattered. You are alone here, with no hope of escape." Mira lifted her head, her dark eyes locking onto his. "And—" Valtor's fingers twitched. "And you will answer my questions, Lieutenant Vasquez. Why did your forces resist so fiercely, knowing you could not win? What secrets was your military hiding? What do you fear?" Mira smiled. It wasn't forced or mocking, just quiet, almost amused. "You think fear is the only way to control people. It is," Valtor said simply. "Every species we have conquered succumbs to it. Then maybe you should have picked a different species." Valtor exhaled slowly. This was not the response he had expected. The Xelvan Empire had spent centuries perfecting the art of breaking resistance. But something about this woman unsettled him. She had watched her comrades die, seen her world burn, and yet she sat here, unshaken. He pressed a button on the console beside him. Mira's restraints tightened, and a pulse of energy surged through her body. It was not meant to cause unbearable pain, only to weaken the mind, to make resistance seem futile. Most prisoners cried out, their bodies convulsing. Mira did neither. She gritted her teeth, but made no sound. When the shock ended, she exhaled and sat back, her expression unchanged. "That all you got?" she asked. Valtor clenched his jaw. This was not how it was supposed to go. "We have methods beyond pain," he said. "We can reach into your mind, extract memories, show you nightmares tailored to your greatest fears." Mira tilted her head. "That's cute. You think humans are afraid of pain, that we break under nightmares." She leaned forward as much as her restraints allowed. "We are the nightmares." Valtor narrowed his eyes. "You are one soldier, alone, defeated. Am I?" Mira's smile widened. "Or am I just the first human you've put in this chair who knows how to use fear better than you do?" Silence stretched between them. Valtor could hear the quiet hum of the ship's engines, the distant murmurs of his subordinates watching from the other side of the observation glass. This was wrong. He had prepared for defiance, for anger, but not this calm, not this certainty. He turned, stepping toward the exit. "We will continue this later." Mira chuckled softly. "Take your time. I'm not going anywhere." The door slid shut behind Valtor. Outside, he faced two of his officers, their mandibles clicking in unease. "Sir," one of them hesitated, "should we increase the intensity?" Valtor did not answer immediately. He was still replaying the moment in his head. How her expression never wavered, how she had smiled in the face of pain. "Not yet," he said finally. "I need to understand why she is not afraid. If we cannot break her." He glanced back at the door, his stomach twisting with a sensation he rarely felt. Doubt. "If we cannot break her," he muttered, "then we may have made a grave mistake in taking Earth." Inside the interrogation room, Mira leaned her head back and closed her eyes. She could almost hear her old drill sergeant's voice in her mind. "Fear is the real battlefield, Vasquez. If you can control it, you can control them." She had no weapons, no allies, no way to escape. But she did have one advantage. They had never met a human like her before, and that terrified them more than anything. Fear is a weapon, and she won't use it. Mira Vasquez sat alone in her cell, wrists and ankles still bound by the energy restraints embedded in the floor. The walls were smooth, metallic, and without features. No windows, no seams, no weak points. A place designed to make prisoners feel powerless. And yet, the power in the room belonged to her. She could feel it shifting, slipping away from the Xelvan captors who thought they controlled her. The interrogations had continued, but they were different now. The Xelvans no longer acted with the same cold confidence. There was a hesitation in their questions, a stiffness in their posture. They were unsettled. Mira smiled. The door hissed open, and Commander Valtor entered, flanked by 2 guards. His usually impassive expression was strained, his gaze sharp but searching. He had thought her resistance would be temporary, that fear would seep in eventually. But hadn't. And now, he was the one questioning himself. He stepped closer, studying her. You refuse to cooperate. That is unexpected. Mira shrugged as much as her restraints allowed. You say that like you were expecting something else. Valtor ignored the comment. I have interrogated countless prisoners, Vasquez. Do you know what they all have in common? Let me guess, she said. They broke. Eventually, Valtor clasped his hands behind his back. Even the strongest reach a moment where they realize resistance is futile. They see the truth of our empire's power. They accept the inevitable. Mira chuckled. You really think people break because of truth? No, Commander. They break because they believe your truth is the only one. She leaned forward slightly. But here's the thing. You don't understand humans. Not really. Valtor's jaw tightened. We conquered your world in a matter of days. We understand enough. Mira shook her head. No, you don't. She glanced at the guards standing beside him, their rigid stances betraying their unease. Tell me, Commander, how many of your soldiers have asked about me? Valtor's silence told her she was right. She continued. They talk, don't they? They whisper. They wonder why this human isn't afraid. Why she hasn't begged. Some of them are curious. Others. Her smile widened. They're afraid. Valtor's hands twitched. They're not afraid of you. Oh, I think they are. Mira's voice was calm, but every word landed like a well-placed strike. They've been taught their entire lives that fear controls everything, that submission is inevitable. But now they're seeing something different. She tilted her head. They're seeing what happens when someone chooses not to be afraid. One of the guards shifted uncomfortably. Mira noticed. So did Valtor. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Your mind games won't save you. Mira met his gaze without flinching. They already have. Silence stretched between them. Valtor's mandibles twitched in frustration. She was in chains. She had no weapons, no way to escape. And yet, she was winning. He turned sharply. Enough. I have indulged this long enough. He gestured to the guards. Take her back to the holding cell. We will resume tomorrow. The guards hesitated. It was barely a pause, half a second, a fraction of doubt, but Mira saw it. And so did Valtor. That was all she needed. As they grabbed her arms, she didn't resist. She allowed them to lead her away, her head held high. As she passed the threshold of the room, she turned slightly, just enough to catch Valtor's gaze one last time. You should be asking yourself a different question, Commander, she said. You're trying to figure out why I'm not afraid. Her expression darkened, her voice dropping to a near whisper. But maybe the real question is, why are you? The door sealed shut behind her. And for the first time in his life, Commander Valtor felt something foreign, something unnatural, creep into his mind. Doubt, the Empire's first fear. The Xelvan capital world of Velker Prime was a monolith of control. Towering spires of black metal stretched into the smog-filled sky, casting long shadows over the rigid, geometrically perfect streets below. There was no chaos here, no uncertainty, only order, efficiency, and obedience. And yet, deep within the Imperial Research Facility, Mira Vasquez sat in her containment cell, completely at ease. The Xelvans had transferred her to this facility days ago, believing that more advanced interrogation techniques would succeed where Valtor had failed. The best xenopsychologists in the Empire had been called in to study her. She had not broken. If anything, she had gotten worse. She didn't scream when subjected to fear simulations. She didn't flinch at pain-induced hallucinations. When they tried to drag memories from her mind, she fought them, forcing their neural probes to flood with images of burning cities, ruined landscapes, and the faces of warriors who had stared death in the eyes and kept fighting. At first, the Xelvans thought it was a flaw in their methods. Now they were beginning to realize the truth. Fear was not a weakness Mira Vasquez possessed, and if she didn't fear, it meant she couldn't be controlled. The experiment. A circular chamber, dimly lit. In the center, Mira stood, her arms restrained by thick bands of energy, locked in place as the experiment began. Around her, Imperial scientists watched from behind reinforced glass. Their leader, Dr. Kaler, a pale-skinned Xelvan with cold, analytical eyes, tapped the control panel. "This test," he said, "will reveal what you fear most, human." Mira sighed, already bored. Another mind probe. Kaler ignored her, pressing the final command. The room around her shifted. Shadows twisted, forming towering images. Earth burning under the Empire's warships. Cities crumbling. Soldiers screaming. A small child, crying, reaching for someone who would never come. "You cannot stop these images," Kaler said. "They are drawn from your subconscious. You feel this fear, even if you will not admit it." Mira remained still. Then she spoke. "You don't understand what fear is, do you?" Kaler frowned. "What? You think fear is just an emotion, something that makes people weak?" Mira's eyes locked onto his. "Fear isn't weakness. It's fuel. It's the thing that keeps you sharp, keeps you fighting. The problem isn't that humans don't feel fear." She leaned forward, a wicked grin forming. "The problem is we use it." Kaler hesitated. His fingers twitched over the controls. "You are lying." "Am I?" Mira's voice was steady, unwavering. "Let me ask you something, Document. If this little show was supposed to break me, why are you the one sweating?" Kaler stiffened. He was sweating. His claws flexed involuntarily. A murmur spread among the scientists. Something was wrong. Mira felt the shift. She knew it now. She wasn't the one being studied anymore. They were afraid of her, and that meant she had already won. The realization. Hours later, Kaler stood in the observation chamber, watching Mira in her cell. Across from him, Commander Valtor arrived, his expression unreadable. "You see it now," Valtor said. It wasn't a question. Kaler exhaled slowly. "Yes." His voice lacked its usual certainty. "She isn't like the others." Valtor folded his arms. "I warned you. I told you she was dangerous." Kaler shook his head. "Dangerous? She is impossible. Every species we have conquered has followed the same pattern. Pain, submission, acceptance. Even the strongest warriors break." He turned toward Valtor, his slitted eyes narrowed. "But not her." Valtor's mandibles clicked. "She should have broken, and yet she didn't. And now my scientists, my people, are whispering about her. They do not say it openly, but I see it in their posture, hear it in their voices." Kaler exhaled. "They are doubting." The word hung in the air like a slow-spreading poison. Doubt was a disease in the Xelvan Empire. It was not tolerated. It was not allowed to exist. And yet here it was, growing. Kaler's hands curled into fists. One human cannot be allowed to disrupt the Empire's order. Valtor nodded. "I agree." For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Kaler muttered the only logical conclusion. "She must die." But even as he said it, the words fell hollow. Because he knew, deep down, that Mira Vasquez was already winning. The collapse begins. Mira Vasquez sat in the center of her cold, sterile cell, her wrists bound in energy restraints. She was still under constant surveillance, but the Xelvans watching her had changed. They thought she couldn't see them, but she could feel it, the hesitation in their movements, the uncertainty in their silence. The fear, not hers, theirs. The door hissed open. Commander Valtor entered, flanked by 2 heavily armed guards. This time, there was no interrogation, no demands for compliance. Just silence. Mira smiled. "This is new. What happened? Did your scientists decide I don't make a good lab rat?" Valtor's expression was unreadable. "Your execution is scheduled for sunrise tomorrow." Mira nodded, as if she had been expecting it. "Took you long enough. You are too dangerous to live." His voice was flat, but there was something beneath it. Not conviction, not certainty, something close to doubt. Mira tilted her head. Dangerous? I'm just sitting here, Commander. How can a single, unarmed human be dangerous to your entire empire? Valter's mandibles clicked, but he didn't answer. Mira leaned forward as much as her restraints allowed. Because I see it now. It's not just me you're afraid of. It's what happens after you kill me. She let her words hang in the air, watching the flicker of unease cross his face. You think this ends when you put me down? She continued. You think my death will restore order? She chuckled, low and knowing. No, Commander. You've already lost. Valtor took a step closer. You speak as if you have already won. You are in chains. You have no army. No way to escape. Mira met his gaze, her voice steady. Then why are your soldiers whispering about me? Valtor stiffened. I hear them, she said, her eyes never leaving his. They think I don't notice, but I do. The guards who hesitate before stepping into my cell. The scientists who avoid looking me in the eye. The ones who used to mock me, but now don't say anything at all. She leaned back, smiling. Fear is contagious, Commander, and it's spreading. The spark. Valtor stood outside Mira's cell long after she had been escorted away, his thoughts tangled. She was right. The whispers had begun days ago, rippling through the ranks like a virus. Not just about her, but about humans. The question was always the same. What if we made a mistake? The Xelvan Empire had conquered countless species, but none had resisted like the humans. None had fought with such reckless defiance. And none had produced someone like Mira Vasquez, a prisoner who had no weapons, no power, and yet was somehow winning. It was spreading beyond the facility. There were reports of unrest in the lower ranks, of officers arguing in hushed tones, of young soldiers questioning orders. Some even spoke of desertion. Doubt was poisoning the empire from the inside, and Mira had planted the seed. The collapse begins. The execution chamber was a towering coliseum of cold steel, built for public spectacles. Xelvan officials, military personnel, and high-ranking nobles gathered in the viewing platforms, eager to witness the final act of defiance crushed before their eyes. Mira stood in the center, bound but unbowed. The executioner, a towering Xelvan warrior, raised his plasma blade. She wasn't afraid. She just watched and waited. The first explosion rocked the chamber a heartbeat later. A second followed. Alarms blared as the massive metal doors exploded inward, sending fire and debris across the execution floor. Armed figures poured through the smoke. Humans, former Xelvan soldiers, and others who had chosen her side. The resistance had arrived. Mira's restraints deactivated as a soldier rushed to her side, cutting her free. She rolled her shoulders, flexing her fingers. About damn time, she muttered. Blaster fire erupted across the chamber. Xelvan guards fell, some fighting, others hesitating, too unsure, too afraid. Mira moved through the chaos with practiced ease, grabbing a fallen weapon and joining the fight. She wasn't just escaping. She was finishing what she started. By the time she reached the exit, Valtor stood in her path. His weapon was raised, but his hands trembled. Mira lowered her rifle. Go ahead, she said. End it. His grip tightened, but he didn't fire. She stepped closer. You feel it, don't you? The thing you never expected? Valtor's breathing was heavy. What? Mira leaned in. Fear. He exhaled sharply, stepping aside. Mira didn't waste another second. She disappeared into the smoke, leading the resistance deeper into the heart of the Empire. The war had just begun, and the Xelvans had already lost.